What if I told you that the vast majority of modern illness, up to 85% of it, is rooted in something that medicine can't see on a scan and no prescription can truly touch? What if the key to healing wasn't in a bottle, but was already inside you, waiting to be remembered? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to recover so quickly from an illness, while others with the exact same diagnosis continue to suffer for years? Or why monks, living in remote Himalayan villages with no access to modern healthcare, often live vibrant lives past 90, free from the chronic pain and conditions we accept as normal? The truth that no one tells you is this: healing isn't something you take, it's something you awaken. For over 2.500 years, Buddhist teachings have pointed to a quiet, profound truth. The body begins to heal not when it's forced or fought with, but when the mind becomes still. This isn't about denying science. It's about rediscovering the inner science of awareness. If you've tried the plans, the pills, and the promises, and a part of you still whispers, "There must be another way," then you are in the right place. Your body doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be heard. Why is it that your joints seem to ache the most right after a difficult argument with someone you love? Or that your stomach twists into knots just moments before a high-stakes conversation? Have you ever stopped to consider that maybe, just maybe, your body isn't malfunctioning? What if it's trying to speak to you? Let's slow this down for a moment. In the Zen Buddhist tradition, we don't rush to fix things. We first learn to listen, because sometimes the pain you feel is not the actual problem, it's the messenger knocking at your door with an urgent telegram. The Buddha once said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." What he truly meant was this: the physical body will experience discomfort. That's a part of life, but it is when the mind resists that discomfort, when it labels it, fears it, and builds a story of dread around it, that suffering truly arises. And here is the twist that most people never hear. Healing doesn't begin when you do something to your body. It begins when you stop doing, and you start feeling. It starts when you stop demanding, "How do I make this go away?" And you start gently asking, "What are you trying to show me?" Let me share something personal. For nearly 4 years, I lived with an invisible weight in my chest. It wasn't a sharp pain, but a constant, heavy pressure, like a stone was resting on my heart. I went to the doctors. I changed my diet. I tried every supplement imaginable. Every test came back perfectly normal, but nothing felt normal. One evening, in the deep quiet after a long day, I simply sat still. I had no goal, no agenda, no intention of fixing anything. I just breathed, and out of that stillness, a memory surfaced that I hadn't touched in decades: the profound, unprocessed grief from the loss of my father. Unspoken words, unshed tears. I finally wept. It wasn't a dramatic, movie-style cry. It was quiet, dignified, like my body was sighing with relief, finally feeling heard after all those years. And something miraculous happened. The next morning, the tightness had softened. It hadn't vanished completely, but it was no longer screaming for my attention. It had been acknowledged, and that was enough to begin healing. So many of us walk through life thinking our body is a battlefield. We try to conquer our fatigue, numb our pain, and override our tension, but the profound truth is, your body isn't fighting against you. It is fighting for you. Every single symptom is a signal, and every signal is a request. Please, listen. Science is now catching up to this ancient wisdom. Research from esteemed institutions like Harvard shows that up to 90% of all doctor visits are stress-related. Not because stress is all in your head, but because it tangibly rewires your brain, suppresses your immune system, tightens your muscles, and inflames your gut. And yet, studies also show that just 10 minutes of daily mindfulness can begin to reverse this damage. That's not magic. That's measurable biology. But here's what they don't put on the prescription bottles. Healing isn't only biological, it's deeply emotional. Psychologists have found that repressed emotions, especially grief, shame, and anger, very often manifest as chronic physical symptoms. What the mind hides, the body reveals. That ache that just won't go away, the sleep that won't come, the heart that beats too fast, too loud. Sometimes it's not because you're broken, it's because you are full of unspoken truths. And the beautiful thing is, the body never stops believing in you. It waits, patiently, like a loyal friend you haven't called in years, but who still answers the phone warmly the moment you finally do. Your new mantra, starting today, can simply be, I am healing, I am learning, I am listening. That small shift is the doorway. Why do we suffer more as we age? Have you ever noticed how quickly a child can bounce back from a scraped knee? But how slowly an adult seems to recover from a simple disappointment? What if the real pain of aging wasn't coming from the body at all, but from the stories we relentlessly attach to it? Here is the uncomfortable truth. It's not your wrinkles, your knees, or your memory that's aging the fastest. It's your belief system. Buddhism teaches very clearly that suffering is not caused by what happens to us. It's caused by our desperate attachment to how we wish things would stay. In modern culture, we are conditioned to worship youth, to chase it, inject it, filter it, and fear its departure. But in Zen, impermanence isn't something to be feared. It is something to be bowed to with grace. Look at a tree in autumn. It doesn't grieve its falling leaves. It lets go beautifully, trusting that what falls away is making room for what is coming next. In this light, aging is not decay. It's a return to essence. It's a clarification. The real suffering begins when we resist this natural truth. It's the inner script that says, I shouldn't feel this tired, or I used to be able to do that so easily, or I look so old in this light. These faults don't just drain your joy, they physically affect your biology. Did you know that in a landmark Yale study, adults with positive self-perceptions of aging lived, on average, 7.5 years longer than those with negative views? That's a greater impact on longevity than quitting smoking or maintaining a low body mass index. So if you're taking all your vitamins but constantly telling yourself, I'm falling apart, which message do you think your cells are listening to? I once met a woman, 78 years old, who absolutely glowed with life. It wasn't the "I run marathons and own an organic farm" kind of vitality, but the deep, resonant peace that made you want to just sit near her. I asked her what her secret was. She smiled and said, "I stopped believing I was old. The body ages. That's its job, but my job is to say thank you every time I wake up breathing." She wasn't in denial. She had arthritis. She'd lost her partner. Her hands shook a little when she poured her tea. But she had dignity, that quiet grace that comes from being present. Not perfect. As we age, what often hurts most is not the body. It's the feeling of becoming invisible, useless, or past our prime. When we lose our sense of purpose, the nervous system can interpret this as a signal to slow down, not just from age, but from an emotional withdrawal. But the reverse is also true. Purpose is the true elixir. Connection can reverse this. Your body is not betraying you. It's maturing you. It's not falling apart. It is peeling away what is no longer essential. Just like the lotus rises from the mud, this stage of life can be your greatest awakening, not your ending. Think of aging like the ripening of a fruit. When a fruit is young, it's firm, glossy, maybe a bit sour, but as it ripens, it softens, sweetens, and its flavor deepens. It becomes nourishing. In the same way, your soul is ripening, but of course, this doesn't mean we have to love every new creak or chin hair that shows up uninvited. When we can stop resisting and start smiling at the process, even the act of aging becomes lighter. Most people will keep chasing youth like a ghost, but you are choosing to wake up instead. This acceptance of our bodies, of our age, is the first great step. But what happens when we've accepted these things, yet still carry a lifetime of emotions we were never allowed to express? That's where we must go next, because the real, deep healing often begins only when we finally allow ourselves to feel what has been buried for far too long. This deep acceptance of our bodies, of our age, is the first great step toward peace. But what happens when we've accepted these things, yet our bodies still carry a lifetime of emotions we were never allowed to express? That is where we must go next, because the truest, deepest healing often begins only when we finally allow ourselves to feel what has been buried for far too long, the weight of unspoken emotions. Your liver remembers your anger, your gut stores your fear, your chest holds your grief. But here is the real question. What happens to a body that's never been allowed to cry? Or worse, one that has been expertly trained to smile through everything? Let's not sugarcoat this. In the Zen tradition, we don't bypass difficult emotions in the name of a false peace. We sit with them, we bow to them, because what you don't feel, you can never be free from. And what you consistently avoid emotionally, your body will eventually be forced to carry physically. Here is something I often say to my students. Your body is not just flesh and blood. It is your living autobiography. It is a sacred scroll that quietly stores every unspoken goodbye, every stifled scream, and every swallowed "I'm not okay." Think about that. For how many years have you been collecting stories that you were too busy, or too scared, to release. You don't need to scream into a pillow every night to heal. But you do need to give your emotions a seat at the table. Most people think strength means keeping it all together, holding a brave face, but real, profound strength is having the courage to allow things to fall apart on purpose. Not dramatically, not for attention, but quietly and authentically, like a great tree shedding its leaves in autumn, trusting that spring will come again. When you choose to finally feel, to soften, to release, your entire vibration changes, and the universe, like a perfect mirror, begins to reflect that new frequency back to you in the form of healing. New people, new opportunities, and the peace that feels earned and true. We have been lied to, taught to fear our own emotions, taught that vulnerability is a weakness, but the most powerful, centered, and truly peaceful people I have ever met were the ones who were not afraid to feel deeply. Because once you have made peace with your own pain, there is nothing in the world that can be used against you. Imagine your body is a house. Every unspoken emotion is like a heavy box shoved into the attic, out of sight, but not out of mind. Its weight is still there. Eventually, the sheer weight of what's unspoken starts making the floorboards creak. One day, you might hear the house itself whisper, "Please, come upstairs, unpack me." Tonight, I invite you to write a letter to your body. Ask it, "What have you been holding for me?" Without thanks, without rest, without my attention, you might be surprised at what it says back. In Zen, we say that when you sit in true stillness, your deepest truths will begin to rise, not to punish you, but to purify you. This isn't a breakdown. It's a breakthrough, the healing power of the present moment. Now that we've begun the process of releasing the old, what happens when we learn to meet each new moment without fear, without resistance, and without the heavy baggage of the past? What if the ultimate cure isn't hidden in some expensive therapy session next year, or in tomorrow's sunrise, but in the simple, profound reality of this exact breath? Let's pause. In Zen Buddhism, we say the past is a memory, and the future is an imagination. Only the present moment is real. And yet, most of us live our lives as if the exact opposite is true. We replay old regrets like a broken film reel, or we fast forward into imagined fears that haven't even happened. Meanwhile, this precious moment, the only one that's truly real, slips by unnoticed. Like a dear friend, we keep standing up. Suffering doesn't just come from pain, it comes from this mental time travel. And the body always pays the price in the form of tension, shallow breath, and racing thoughts. A Harvard study revealed a startling statistic. People spend nearly 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're actually doing. And this constant mind wandering is a direct predictor of unhappiness. But here is the empowering part. The same science shows that just 10 minutes of mindfulness a day can significantly lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, and even increase gray matter in the parts of your brain linked to memory and self-awareness. You can literally rewire your brain simply by breathing with intention. I know what some of you might be thinking, but I have bills to pay, pain in my body, deadlines to meet. I can't just sit and breathe all day. You're right, and you don't have to. Presence doesn't mean pausing your life. It means showing up for it fully. You can wash the dishes with complete awareness. You can feel your feet inside your shoes as you walk to the mailbox. Presence isn't a complicated technique. It's a simple return home. Think of your mind like a snow globe. When you shake it with worry and fear, everything is a chaotic blur. But what happens when you stop shaking? The flakes gently settle. Clarity returns. The stillness reveals the beautiful scene that was always there. Right beneath the storm, you don't need more time. You just need more presence in the time you already have. The body responds to meaning, not just medicine. We've explored awareness, emotion, and belief. Now we arrive at the final, most powerful pillar of healing. People don't just die of illness. They die of hopelessness. They die of feeling unnecessary, forgotten, and unseen. A hard truth we must say out loud is this: without a sense of purpose, even the healthiest body begins to fade. But with purpose, even a tired body can find a new and astonishing strength. In Buddhism, there's a teaching called right livelihood. It's not just about your job. It's about the energy behind what you do. It's the idea that when your actions align with your heart, peace follows, and that peace is profoundly healing. But let me clarify something crucial. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't mean launching a global foundation or writing a best-selling book. Purpose can be quiet, gentle, and deeply personal. Purpose can be, I want to teach my granddaughter how to bake, or I want to keep tending to this little garden that I love. A groundbreaking study from the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center found that seniors with a strong sense of purpose were 2.4 times less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. Your why may be more powerful than your what. You may have been told that healing means slowing down, but sometimes healing means waking something up, not your schedule, but your sense of being needed, valued, and connected. Pain without purpose can feel unbearable, but pain with purpose becomes a kind of sacred fuel. It gives your struggle a story. It makes life feel like a path, not a prison. Think of your purpose as the sun. You will have cloudy days. You may sometimes forget it's there. But when you consciously turn toward it, everything in your inner garden begins to grow. Even if slowly, even if silently, the body responds to warmth, especially the warmth of meaning. So the question is not, how many years do I have left? The real question is, what will I bring to the years I have? If you're still breathing, you're not done. You're still becoming, and that act of becoming is the medicine. You are not broken, you are remembering. You are remembering that your symptoms are not punishments, they are messengers. You are remembering that aging is not an ending, it is a return to essence. You are remembering that emotion, when honored, does not break you, it frees you. You are remembering that the present moment is not a delay. It is the destination. It is the medicine, and you are remembering that purpose, no matter how small, breathes life and vitality into every single cell of your being. What if healing was never about doing more, but about being more present? What if your body doesn't need a new routine, but the new, more loving relationship with you? As you go forward from this moment, I invite you to stay curious. Pause often. Ask your body what it needs. Not just physically, but spiritually. Let your breath constantly remind you that this moment is sacred. Let your choices say, I am here, I am willing, I am listening. If this journey touched something inside of you, please support our community by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And I would love to hear from you in the comments below. What is one part of your body or your journey that you are learning to listen to with more love? Thank you for being here. Remember, healing isn't about fixing what's wrong. It's about gently, patiently returning to the wholeness, the peace, and the profound truth of who you already are.